do we have the ability right now to quickly become 100% renewable energy within 20 years if we wanted, if we had cooperation?
5 if we wanted.
Yeah, the published literature is 10 years.
And would that
We can do it in 10 years.
would that solve all of our energy problems if we had full cooperation and spent the money and became 100% renewable in 10 years? Would that solve everything?
To Katie's point, I think we need to constantly, drive efficiency and, the consumption question so that it doesn't just grow and grow and grow and grow. And, I do believe in innovation, you have some solution to that problem, and we can use new materials and other technologies if we pursue that.
We also need to bring up the Jevons paradox. William Jevons was a British economist. In 1862, he wrote a book called The Coal Question, and he explained that energy efficiency is the cause of increased energy consumption. The reason is that as you manufacture goods by the millions, then you lower the cost, and that means more people can buy them. And that means you're going to be mining many, many more tons of coal to run the power plants. You're going to be mining many more natural resources to create the products. So energy efficiency causes increased energy consumption. It also leads to an increased population, and it does grow the economy. The other thing is that none of those prices reflect the true costs. They don't reflect the true environmental costs or the true social costs. So we need to include that paradox and true costs in our day-to-day lives, in our economic development.
I think there's one point there. Most of the things I would agree with, but it's not true that energy increases population. Those countries that became wealthy by means of the Industrial Revolution, they replaced human labor with fossil fuels, but they got wealthy, and then the women decided they didn't like to have 6 children, and so I think that the population, we are overrunning the planet, and that needs to be addressed. But I think it's best addressed actually by increasing the wealth, and we need energy to do that, but it needs to be clean energy. But I do think that overconsumption is a valid point, and so it may be that as fossil fuels are phased down, that the carbon fee needs to be replaced by an energy fee. They'll make it more precious rather than people just wasting energy.
We need to have a wealth tax, by the way, because, I'm trying to remember the numbers, but it's something like 10% of the world's population is responsible for 50% of the emissions, something like that. So as well as a carbon fee, we need a wealth fee, and we're all taxed, right? We know it, but that will require legislation and lawmaking as well. It's outrageous that CEOs, of your favorite worst fossil fuel corporation are getting millions and millions and millions of dollars a year. I mean, it's completely ridiculous. So they must be that must be disallowed, because that's corruption as well. And so we need a wealth fee as well. And that applies to all countries, because it's happening in China, it's happening in India, right?
Yeah, I think there's no question that having a huge disparity between the upper rungs of the economic ladder and the lower rungs makes for a strained society at best, and a fragile state or a failing state in the worst case scenario. So I think part of solving the climate problem involves tackling inequities around the world. And on the population question, some of the easiest ways and the cheapest ways to cut carbon emissions are to educate girls around the world to make sure girls everywhere are literate and give them the tools and the information to be able to plan their family size. And study after study shows that when they have the economic resources and they have the educational resources, they will make good choices for their families. And more women in power everywhere tends to be good for the planet.
I think indeed there is a silent threat of too much stuff and things that break and things that aren't made to last. That's extremely important, as well as energy efficiency. And as we move forward, it would be wonderful if we could include that in our future. But as we know, we have to stop producing emissions. We need to get to zero emissions fast. We don't necessarily have to do it in 5 years. We can take a little bit more time to do it. It would be better to do it in 5 years. It would be better to do it today because we already have climate change and we're already feeling it today. But we can work on reducing our fossil fuel infrastructure at 4% or 6% per year. We're not even doing that yet, and then we can at the same rate put in clean technology, renewable technology to take their place and then get to zero emissions. And we have to do that. We have to find different ways to do that. And we will have we will have cheaper energy, we'll have better energy, and we'll have we'll have a better energy future for sure. I think, was it at the end of your talk, Jan, that you put that, what's the worst thing that can happen? Cleaner air, better society, what's the worst thing? So we need to do that. And then we need to also look at cradle to grave emissions of our technologies. I mean, we'll be producing other toxins, not just climate change, greenhouse gases. When I was little, they used to scare us with what we were doing to the Great Lakes because I grew up in the Chicago area, and we would look at how Lake Erie burning and the horrible pollution we were putting into Lake Michigan. Even if we solve our climate change problems, we're still going to have many societal problems with pollution, problems with corrupt governments, and I just solving our climate change will give us a chance to solve all of these other problems. If we don't solve our climate change problem, we can have societal collapse. I don't know if we will have an American government to have a president if we get over 700 parts per million. What type of instability that will cause as there's massive migrations. I mean, our current administration is worried about a few little caravans coming from South America. This is going to be, in Central America, this is going to be way beyond that. And so, and it's going to be caravans of our own people as well. From this country, everybody is our own people, but people from the United States as well. We're going to have caravans of people moving. We've already seen dislocation. So we need to, like I said, we need to find a way, pass laws, carbon, I'm sorry, what was it called? Carbon,
Fee-based.
carbon
Rebate.
Fee and
carbon fee, we need to do it all, and we need to do it now. And we need to find a way to motivate people to do it. It would be better if we do not have something like bombing of Pearl Harbor to get us into the war, let's say. And I'm not sure what that is. I think it's everything. Right now it looks like it's a lot of effort, individual effort. Change your natural gas furnace with heat pumps, and buy an electric car, put solar panels on your roof. Continue to do your science, do your engineering, be entrepreneurs, be teachers, elected officials that will do what we want them to do. And right now, it looks like it's everything is what we need to do until entrepreneurship and technological innovation hits where prices go low enough that hopefully this transformation happens and we save ourselves. We are saved despite ourselves.
One other point that we might have forgotten, important, I think could be a very important point. It's not happening in the United States, perhaps, but in several other countries in the last several weeks, children have gone on strike. Stay home, don't go to school on Friday, and instead go stand in front of the legislature or some place, and explicitly saying, you're screwing our future, and we demand that you do something. And if that grows, that just might have a big impact. It's very, very impressive.
What was her name? She was in Sweden. She's 15 years old.
Yeah, she started it, but now it's even Australia and France and Belgium. It's spread.
Right now in Denver, that's happening right now. Denver Public Schools.
Oh.
Yeah.
So
And I think that you're right. The children are seeing this. I know a friend of ours who's an early adopter came to our house with his Leaf 5 or 6 years ago, and my kids were looking at it, and they looked at me and they said, "Why do you have a gas car? Why would you have that stinky, horrible thing? Why don't you have a car with a plug?" That was, and so I think kids see it, and maybe it is action from the kids. I think you're right.
let me ask.
I think the girl's name is Greta Thunberg.
Greta Thunberg.
Greta Thunberg, that's right, thanks.